I've missed her voice. Recording in progress.
We all know we are recording.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, good morning. Welcome back from your break, Jo.
Thank you very much. I had a lovely time away. Thank you.
Good.
Did you miss me?
No.
Yes.
Excellent. I missed you. Particularly liked your pigeons last week. They were very glamorous.
They were very good. Yeah, I mean...
They were good-looking pigeons, weren't they?
Excellent-looking pigeons. Very good.
Yeah. We do stand in awe and bow before the comms master. He finds a great title every week, and he's very fitting. And we do have to pay him the full credit because he obviously does listen right to the end. You see, we were casting aspersions on whether he listened all the way through or whether he dropped off with boredom in between it all, but there we are. But he did a few weeks ago. I'm not quite. With you being away, I can't remember. I did get an email from him saying, "Please waffle. People like it."
Oh yes, no, that was yes. We got banterless, I think.
We did waffle.
Or badinage.
Yeah, we did.
As the new word that I've learned is
badinage. That's right.
Badinage.
There we are. So lots of waffle was reintroduced while you were away. Not that it took much doing, as you can possibly imagine, but it did. But Chris and I, because it doesn't come natural to Chris and I, like yourself, we had to work very hard at it, didn't we, Chris?
We did. It's hard work just waffling.
Yeah, it is. It's very hard work. But we tried hard to please the dear viewer, and that was quite good. And but
it wasn't the viewer you were pleasing; it was the comms manager.
Oh no, yes, it was the viewers that was missing it.
Yeah, that's true.
So
I think it splits them. You see, there's some like we've said this before. Some don't watch because they can't bear this bit. Others miss it if it's not there. So
the advantage of being online, if you can't bear this bit, you just go and fast forward, and it's actually quite easy on YouTube and Facebook and all the other ones and Instagram that we got.
Or you just go make a quick cup of tea at this bit, and nobody knows today. Yeah, you come back.
And then you come back and listen to the serious bit.
It's harder if you're running whilst you're listening to us, because then you've got to stop, get your phone out, scroll through.
Do people run whilst listening?
I don't know. Maybe. Don't know.
Oh,
that's not because we're on YouTube.
Yeah.
I often listen to podcasts when I run. Yeah. And I guess this is like a podcast. It's just, Anyway, if you're listening to us while you're running, keep running.
And let us know.
And let us know. Let us know.
Also, you're missing out on the fantastic video of the picture of all three of us.
I don't think it enhances much, to be honest. I'm sorry, Dave. It's a bit offended. I'm sure people love seeing how tidy my study is or isn't.
Exactly, and yes, but never mind. Never mind. I've got lots of paper I've got to tidy up in the next couple of days because it's starting to get paper strewn across it. Telephone numbers, what I'm not in. On my visiting cards, my wife has found my secret stash of visiting cards to write numbers on, which is not good. There we are. Oh, well, there we are. So what are we going to do this week? We're going to actually do something slightly different. We're going to do a kind of course, aren't we? For the next 5 weeks.
You might have bigged it up into something it isn't. I think it's a series.
A series. We're going to do a series on one of my favourite books of the or letters in the New Testament. Although Martin Luther didn't like the letter of James, did he at all? He said it was full of straw, a bit like the scarecrows around town in Beaminster at the moment.
The Epistle of Straw.
Yeah. So, Chris, I think we need to take a pause.
You've remembered, David.
And when we've taken a pause, when you've not interrupted, you can then read to us if you'd like to. Let's have a pause.
a reading from James chapter 1, starting at verse 17. Every generous act of giving with every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow due to change. In fulfillment of his own purpose, he gave us birth by the word of truth, so that we would become a kind of first fruits of his creatures. You must understand this, my beloved. Let everyone be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger, for your anger does not produce God's righteousness. Therefore, rid yourselves of all sordidness and rank growth of wickedness, and welcome with meekness the implanted word that has the power to save your souls. Be doers of the word and not merely hearers who deceive themselves. For if any are hearers of the word and not doers, they are like those who look at themselves in a mirror. For they look at themselves and on going away immediately forget what they were like. But those who look into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and persevere, being not hearers who forget, but doers who act, they will be blessed in their doing. If any think they are religious and do not bridle their tongues, but deceive their hearts, their religion is worthless. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this: to care for orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself unstained by the world.
Good stuff there.
One has got to be very careful what one says, though, about some of this, hasn't one? We don't want to accuse any particular person or group of people of being like that reading.
Well, and also I would say there's grounds here for hypocrisy.
Exactly. Exactly.
I would yes, I couldn't honestly put my hand up and say that I have always been quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger.
Oh.
Sadly.
I personally wouldn't have thought of that myself, but, only you can pass judgment on yourself, of course.
We could just critique each other according to the set of guidelines.
Why? Let's just try and think for a few moments. Why do we think Martin Luther wouldn't like this?
I've often pondered that, actually.
Yeah.
Luther was a reformer.
He was.
So yes. So I wonder if I've always suspected it's because of this. The emphasis on James is about actually how you live and how you do.
Yes.
And they were reforming the church to get away from earning your salvation and reminding people that salvation comes through faith alone. So I wonder if it's too, he saw it as potentially too much about giving the impression that you can earn your salvation by being good rather than through faith. But
a bit of good works. Didn't like good works, didn't like good works.
But I don't know.
I like the beginning. Every perfect gift is from above.
Yeah.
It's so easy for us all to forget, actually, that everything we do, we only do because we're given the ability and the gift from God. And it doesn't come solely from within, but from God's grace and generosity to us. So that always reminds me when I read that actually without God's gift of grace, I couldn't be who I am.
And I think that's where the argument between doing and being comes, isn't it? It's more or less what comes first. It's if we think that just our doing is what saves us, then we're mistaken. But by believing in God, by accepting that God's generosity, by accepting every perfect gift, by accepting that, yes, we get it wrong as well, by accepting the hypocrisy of it all, by accepting we get things wrong and accepting that God is perfect by our prayers and our holy spiritual lives, that imbibes in us the desire to be doers of God's word. I remember saying, I think this was back when I was in my 20s, I don't kill my neighbour because I don't want to, not because I think I mustn't. You know what I mean? And that's the sort of thought. And the more we love God, the more actually our desire is to love our neighbour and be nice to them. So if you want to increase your obedience and your doing, increase your love of God. That's the Chris Grass take on it.
I think that's a very good take. I agree.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think, the thing that's so radical about salvation through faith is that it is so generous and it feels so wrong, because everything else in our lives comes through, the measures of the world's success is all about how successful you are or how hard you work or how famous you are. And those things are rewarded by the world. So your endeavours are rewarded by the world. So we live in this kind of understanding that everything we do has a reward. But actually, that's the outrageousness of grace, is it's nothing to do with what you're doing. It's to do with what you're given as a gift through faith. So all you've got to do is believe. And so it's just, I think people have a time, people struggle with faith leading to salvation because it just seems weird and strange and outrageous. You don't get anything for free in this life, But God loves you so much that he's willing to give that to you just in return for your love. And that's it.
And I actually think that God still gives people all of that, even if they don't have faith or understand, because he doesn't care. He just loves us so much. And I think that gift of God's love is still there, whether we recognise it or people recognise it or not, or take it or whatever. God treats us all the same, doesn't he? Because in his sight, we're all one in him and through him.
Now, that's a very interesting discussion, but it doesn't directly link to what we're talking about in James. But that is a really tricky one, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It is the people who believe that you only, if you take John 14 straight, I am the way, the truth, and life, everything, no one can come to the Father except through me, then you would say that can't possibly happen. But I just cannot believe that if God does create us all, because we believe that, and that's what we say, we're all created in God's image, then he loves us because he's created us and made us. Whether we turn to faith or not, I still think he loves us.
Oh, that makes it even more outrageous, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Even more generous, even more.
Absolutely. God's generosity is beyond all imagining, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
And there we are. Thanks for joining us for Rev Chat today.
It is. It's just unbelievable. I mean, I do like the bit. Let everyone be quick to listen and slow to speak.
Yeah.
Of course, we're renowned for that on Rev Chat, and it's that old thing that you hear people say. We were given 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them accordingly. I think there is something very important about that. Slow to anger.
Is that why there's 3 of us on Rev Chat today? The 2 of us are listening and 1 speaking.
Absolutely, Chris. Absolutely. No, for me, I just think that the whole of this letter of James, which is why we've chosen, and you're quite right, Joe, when you said earlier, actually, it's not a course, it's a series of talks and explanations from what we understand or perhaps know about James. I just think it's a lot of these letters are so underestimated or underread in churches. And, we do need to recognise that they're there for a reason. They're there because they were seen and accepted by scholars very early on as being word directly given to us from God and from God, and we need to take as much attention of them as we do the Gospels as well.
Yeah, and something that we talk a lot about in church about discipleship or about living out our faith. We talk about the 5 marks of mission. They're all the actions that come out of our faith. So the relationship that we have with God might be something that we consider very personal to ourselves, but we enact it corporately. We are all gathered together as believers when we worship or we meet or however we kind of come together, whether we are listening to Rev Chat or coming on a Sunday or coming to Messy Church, whatever it might be. But it's how that then spills out into how we live our lives, the doing part of it, which is what Chris was saying at the beginning. You know, I keep the 10 Commandments because of the love I have for God. I don't want to do those things because of the relationship I have with God. And I think, you know, encouraging us all to start to think about our whole lives in relation to faith is kind of the point of what we're doing week by week and day by day. And James is really drilling into some of that stuff about, you know, how you speak, how you treat each other, how angry you get about things, whether your life mirrors the things that you believe. Are we people of integrity? Does it match up? You know, we can say we believe in climate change, but unless we're actually doing something to alleviate the pressure of the climate emergency, we can say we believe that God loves us, and from that love we love each other. But if we don't love each other, then we're not really doing it. We're just empty words, isn't it?
Yep.
It strikes me as one of the most passionate Rev Chats I've been involved in. We've all got some quite passionate things to say.
Yeah.
And rightly so.
Absolutely.
You see, it's the very end, isn't it? Because often, I'm sure both of you get asked a question or intimated. People will say something along the lines, "Oh, I can't be as religious as you," or "I'm not religious." I hear that regularly when I go to do funeral visits or baptism visits or whatever the case may be, or wedding interviews. And I don't know what the word religious means when they're talking about it. And I say to them, I'm not quite sure what you mean by religious. If you mean, do I have faith and live it out? I hope I do. Well, I know I have faith. I hope I live it out by example. But religious suggests that you're going to go around with your leather-clad Bible in your chinos and your gilet, doesn't it? And be banging on doors, demanding that people hear a passage about their sin or something. And I'm never quite sure what it means by religious. I do know people who, in all of our churches, I know clergy, and I'm sure I haven't been exempt at times, who perhaps get on their high horse about something, and think that their religious opinion is more important than other people's, or they're more important in church than other people. You know, how many times have you heard the saying, you know, "Oh, my mother was big in the church"? And I often say to people, "No, I'm the biggest in the church by size," and that's probably true.
I'm just doing a bit of Greek. Sorry, that's why my head was down, because I'm looking at my phone. The word in James that's in verses 26 and 27 that's translated as religion, the Greek word is threskia, and it also comes in Colossians, and it's then translated as worship.
Yep.
And I think yeah, the word religion has got a bad press, really, because it can be done. I mean, it can be, yes, used as an oppressive regime or as a way of controlling people, or as, you know, and I think in James it's hinting a little bit about the sort of rituals we follow when we don't really know why we're doing them and what the point of them is. But if we think about worship, you know, giving God his worth, her worth, we can, for me, that helps take away some of the negative stuff around that word. If anything, they are worshippers and do not bridle their tongues. Worship that is pure and undefiled before God might, I don't know, I don't know whether you can really interchange those two words, religion and worship, but it might be is another way of thinking about it, getting away from that negative word. Yeah.
I think often, it can be seen as we are more worthy because we go to church than those who don't. And there's a lot of problems with that, isn't there? And, I certainly meet people who, have that kind of understanding. They will say to me, you go to church a lot, so you're more worthy than me. But actually, that's a load of rubbish. Of course it is. We know it's a load of rubbish. We're all worthy in God's eyes. It's just recognising that, as we said earlier, it's recognising God's love for us and being prepared to accept it, and then to live a life worthy of it.
Yeah, I often get told that I'm not good enough to go to church.
Yes.
Which is almost the same thing, and yet every church service we have, one of the first things we do is confess our sins.
Absolutely.
We're saying, sorry, we've got it wrong. So actually, it's almost the other way round.
Absolutely.
It's the worthy who aren't good enough to come to church because they haven't recognised that they're not worthy.
And
I think worthy as in their behaviour, not worthy as in loved by God.
Yeah,
sorry.
Go on. No.
No, I mean, anyone who's saying I'm not worthy to come to church is exactly already got the humility going that we should be, that we absolutely know it's not about how much we're worth, it's about how much we're worth to God. And often we were talking, you can encounter in church communities, some people who God's got quite a hard job getting through the personality or the belief that we're more important than other people, or we're abusing our power or our hierarchy or anything like that. And actually to be coming to say, Lord, I'm not worthy to receive you, but only say the words and I shall be healed. And, if it was about how worthy we were, none of us would be there.
Yeah, I would be worried, Chris, if I were you, because if they tell you you're unworthy to be there, it's a way of saying, actually, we'd rather do it ourselves.
I think that's a completely different subject. And I'm not going to go there.
We might go there another day.
Another day. When you're not here, we can use that again. But never mind.
Right. Use that when I'm on holiday.
So, dear viewer, we hope that we've given you a kind of inkling about the excitement of James over the next few weeks, and that you'll continue to bear with us. I do like James, and read James as a letter yourself, and then you may be able to, as you sit and watch us over the next few weeks or listen to us, in your own mind, have some different thoughts and ideas.
And if I get a chance, I'll do a bit of searching for good articles or comments or blog posts or anything that we could link a few extra things if people wanted to do a bit of reading around the subject.
Yeah, James is good. It's good stuff.
Wonderful. It's good to see you both.
Yeah. And so, of course, as ever, you can follow us on the Eggardon Colmers Facebook, TikTok. Are you still on TikTok, Chris? You still on TikTok?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Still on TikTok. And on all other things that have the word Eggardon and Colmers in it as well.
Yeah.
And you can follow the Beaminster Team on, well, we're everywhere, really, aren't we?
But not on TikTok, actually.
Not on TikTok, yeah.
I was going to that. I did see TikTok is full of straw. You've got to be very careful. So,
Very good.
so there we are. You can follow the Beaminster Team.
Hashtag farming, yes, you get lots of straw.
Yes.
Farming, love it.
It's a good one. And so you can follow the Beaminster Team on all our usual platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, and everything else that could possibly be there except TikTok.
But maybe that's to come. Who knows?
I'm going to start reading the letter of James whilst dancing, I think. That could be good.
Yeah. So Dave is going to go and read the letter of James, and Joe's going to go and do some investigation in TikTok.
No, I'm going to
TikTok dance.
I have actually got a TikTok account. I have to be honest. My daughter set it up a long time ago. I've never ever used it, but now I might be encouraged to do dancing for 1 minute or 3 whilst reading the letter of James. That could be good, couldn't it?
Well, Vere, if you've made it to the end of this, you deserve a medal. And look out for David on TikTok. I can hardly wait.
Yeah.
Bless you all. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye.